Well, howdy.
Howdy, buddy. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, man. I did a ninja trip down to Texas yesterday. I drove to Texas and back for a high school reunion.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. So I'll say this, we had a plan that if the reunion ended by like 9 or 10, we were just gonna drive back to Tulsa. Like just, get up back instead of paying for a hotel or staying with family. And then we ended up leaving at 11:30, and I had had multiple drinks, and I was in a great mood. And I'll explain why in a second. But when we got in the car, I was like, I'm wide awake. Like I could drive back to Tulsa right now. So we got back to Tulsa at 3:30 last night. And
Damn.
yeah, so I'm a little, I got brain fog today. I drank, I drove through the night. I only slept 4 hours because the Jaguars played at 8:30 this morning. So
Okay.
I went to bed at 4 a.m. and set an alarm for 8:15 and got up to watch the Jags and then watched football all day. Had people over and drank while watching football. So
Hmm. Dang.
I'm not as sharp as I once was. Today is yeah. So
Yeah. I
apologies in
am
advance.
a little over 3 days into a fast. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
What do you mean by fast? Because I when I hear fast, I my thought is like no food at all. But then there's like
Yep.
there's different versions of fasting, I guess. So what are you doing?
Yeah. So I'm just doing just liquid
Okay.
only fast.
Are you like juice?
So a
Are
lot
you
of
juicing things?
a lot of juice and bone broth.
So I think it's Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer for a while. Like they were sponsored by a company that was like I can't remember the name, but it was like a manly kind of bone broth and like beef broth or something like
Okay.
that. And they were talking about how a warm beef broth in the morning or bone broth, whatever it was, like how it started their day right and this and that. I don't know anything
Yeah.
about it, but is that anything that you would try to sell me on?
It's super good for you. I mean, it
Okay.
just basically, I make it myself, and you basically, you're just pulling the nutrients out of the bones. So like what I did this time was I cooked like a whole rack of ribs and a bunch of wings, and I kept all the bones, and then I boil those down with like carrots, onion, and celery, and you boil it for like
Okay.
24 hours, and yeah, and then you strain it and
You
drink the
boil, can
juice.
you
I
like
usually
do
make
that?
soup out of it.
Can you do that like in a crock pot or do you have to boil it?
You can use a crock pot, yeah.
Okay. That sounds interesting. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I got to tell you real quick, and I don't want to go too far in depth of this story, but I was so proud of myself when I left this reunion. It was at a bar in Arlington, Texas, and my wife's reunion, so I know almost nobody there. Do you remember a gentleman that used to work the bar at Bobby V's in Arlington named Howie?
Yeah, I know Howie.
So I get there, and Howie's the bartender at this new bar. So instantly, I was
Okay.
like, "Oh, like I know a bartender." So that worked out great. Great to see that guy. At
Good.
one point, I'm sitting at the bar trying to get a drink, and these two kids are sitting beside me. And I jokingly said, "I was like, oh, like I'm guessing y'all aren't here for the reunion because they were clearly much younger than us." And I jokingly said, like, "What are you guys, class of 2015 or something?" Oh, dude, they made me feel so old. They were like, "No, we graduated high school in 2021. They were born in
Holy moly.
2003, graduated, and they were 21 years old exactly, going to UTA." So I talked to them a
Wow.
little bit. They fish, kind of stuff like that, and I couldn't help myself. But as I was kind of wrapping up, I got my drinks and I was getting ready to go, and I was like, "Hey," I was like, "just curious. I'm kind of pulling people. Trump or Harris? Who you guys voting for?" And they were both like, "Oh, 100% Trump. Like, why we wouldn't vote for Kamala? Like, 100% Trump." And I was just drunk enough to where I was like, "Really? Like, can you guys like elaborate? Like, what are your biggest issues? Like, what are you voting on?" I ended up sitting there for 90 minutes, easy, talking to these two kids. Okay. I flipped one of them within 30 minutes. Like he within 30 minutes was like, he's like, I kind of wondered because some of the stuff I was hearing doesn't make sense. And several times throughout it, they would say, well, what about blah, blah, blah? And I would say, that's not accurate. Let's look it up. Let's all get our phones out and look it up. And we'd all get like Google. And then they'd go, oh, wow. Well, how come I'm hearing this, whatever it is, when it's not true? And I'm like, because I said, where are you getting your news? And they said, mostly like social media. I said, that's why you're hearing all this incorrect stuff. The other kid was harder. I don't know if I fully flipped the other kid, but I will tell you, he you could tell wheels were spinning in his head. He was questioning the things he thought he knew. Like it was so neat. At the end, they both like shook my hand and were like legit, like, "Hey, thank you for the conversation. Like, thank you for the information. We hadn't heard this before."
Huh.
Throughout that 90 minutes, women that were there at the reunion, which these are roughly 38-year-old women, were walking by and giving me high fives. One woman gave me a high five and said, "One voter at a time." And I was like, "I'm working on it." At one point, we started talking abortion, and it was one of the bartenders pointed it out to me while we were talking. He said, "Hey, that lady over there is filming y'all," and she was like standing just right on the other side of them
Oh
filming
shit.
us. And I kind of got weird about it. I was like, "Hey," I was like, what's going on? Why are you filming us?" And she was like, "Oh," she's like, "I just think it's funny that three men are talking about abortion." And I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Well," I was like, if you think we're saying something wrong, like please jump in. I'd love to hear your take." And she goes, "No, actually, it's odd because you three men are talking about abortion and you're kind of you have the stance of a woman on the left." And I was like, "Oh, sweet." So I was like, "Would you say that me and you kind of agree?" And she's like, "Yeah, no, you totally agree. Like I agree with what you're saying. That's why I'm filming it." So I'm a little weary that that might show up on like YouTube or Twitter or something like that, like three white men talking about abortion at a bar in Texas. If that pops up, I'm just telling you. But even
That's nice.
after I got done with them, that lady followed me back and like was like, "Hey, like good work. Like you really made a dent with those kids." And I was like, "Thanks, guys." Um, I
Nice,
to
Andy.
I totally approached it. I totally approached it from the angle of like, "Hey, totally true, but hey, I'm a lifelong conservative. Like I believe in a lot of conservative things. Donald Trump is not a conservative." And that was kind of the angle I took. I always say you can't lead into it with like Donald Trump's stupid and so are you if you're voting for him. If you do that, people put up a wall right away. So I kind of eased it in there, nice and smooth and gentle,
Yeah.
and got him listening. And I walked out of that bar on such a like I was feeling good, and like as soon as we got to the car, I was like, I can drive to Tulsa right now. Like let's roll. And yeah, so anyhow,
Well, way to go, man.
it was a
Awesome.
big night for me. So I affected one kid for sure, and possibly a second. If Trump loses Texas by 2 votes, all me, buddy. I did that. So
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
and then
Nice.
while we're talking Texas real quick, did you get to see any highlights or anything from the Ted Cruz Colin Allred debate? Have you seen anything
I
about that?
watched I watched almost the whole thing. I don't
Okay.
think I finished it, but
What were your thoughts?
Ted Cruz is a horrible person. I've always thought that.
Even all the Texas Republicans I know hate Ted Cruz. Like nobody likes Ted Cruz. So
Yeah.
after that debate, right before that debate, it was basically tied. I think it was like 45-44 all red. That's a statistical tie. Technically all red was up a point, but that's a tie. But that was before
Okay.
the debate. I don't know what's going to happen in the presidential election, but I'll tell you right now, I would be happier if Ted Cruz loses than anything else. Like that would be
Yeah, me too.
I would be super pumped about that. And I don't know a whole lot about Allred, but from what I saw in that debate, like I like that guy. I don't know if he did a great job in that debate or not, but he won me over. I'm a fan. So
He did okay. I mean, he wasn't like a I don't think he came out of that like looking super shiny, but
mm.
like Ted Cruz just looks
so
slimy and swarmy. Like
I kind of wondered that, like, did he to me, Allred looked really good, but did he look good, or is it just that standing next to Ted Cruz, it's really easy to look like a better option?
he looked okay. Like he
Okay.
looked okay in the debate, and Ted Cruz just looked like Ted Cruz, which is bad. So I think Allred came out way ahead on
Yeah.
that one. So
Well, I know Ted
Is Texas one where you can just vote Republican all the way down ballot?
I think that's called straight line party voting or something like that, and I think you can
Yeah.
do that in Texas. So
Yeah. That kind of hurts Allred, I think.
they're saying that there could be a lot of vote splitting where Republicans are going to vote for Trump, but also for Allred. Like I said, everybody hates Ted Cruz. Like that whole thing where he left during the freeze and went to Cancun and left everybody hanging, like, which
Yeah.
I'll say, I hate Ted Cruz with all my heart. And I'm sorry, Mom. I know you told me not to say hate, but I hate Ted Cruz. I will say this. He's a United States senator. What was he going to do during the freeze? It's not like he had the power to get the electricity back on now. It's just a bad look. Like
It's a bad look.
you should stay there with the people of your state. But him going to Cancun didn't make anybody stay without power for longer than had he stayed. I'm just saying it's a bad look.
Um, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I
100%.
mean, it's
It's a
kind of
bad look.
like if our state is suffering, you need to stay here and suffer
Mhm.
with our state
Yeah,
as opposed to yeah,
exactly. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
my
I
take
mean,
on it.
and what would you expect from Ted Cruz other than that? He's
There,
not good. He's just gonna
yeah.
leave. But he left his dog at home. That's the thing. He left his dog at home in the
Here's the thing
freezing
that
cold.
he left his dog home, but clearly with a dog sitter or something because somebody took that picture. There's a picture of his dog looking out the back door, and whoever took it was inside the house. So the picture that everybody
Okay.
saw Clearly, the other dog didn't take the picture. There was a human there that took the picture. So
Okay,
yeah. So I mean, yeah, he left his dog behind. I just think that's more funny. It's kind of fun to pile on him sometimes, but the whole leaving the dog behind, I wasn't expecting him to take his dog to Cancun. I'll just say. So
that's true. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'll be
So
so happy if he gets out of office if he's
yeah.
jobless.
The problem is he
Uh,
does his podcast, and it seems to be all he really does these days is his podcast. Like he doesn't
yeah.
introduce any legislation. So I think we're stuck with Ted Cruz forever. Like even if he loses, like he'll be on the Daily Wire or some other Republican podcast platform. Like that's kind of
Have you ever watched his podcast? I have not.
no. I don't even know if he has a big like following on it. I just know he has a podcast. So
Yeah.
I don't think like I'll listen to Ben Shapiro or like there's certain right wing people I don't agree with that I'll listen to. You couldn't pay me to listen to Ted Cruz talk for 30 minutes. Like I don't
Oh
not
yeah.
even just for the sake of I should listen so I know what it's about. No, I don't. I hate him that much that I couldn't do it. So anyway,
Yeah. I mean, just him like showing up on Fox News when I watch Fox News is just like it's like 30 seconds of horror.
hmm which luckily he's only ever on like the evening shows like Hannity. And like I don't
Yeah.
watch that side of Fox News. Like I do every now and then just to see what they're doing. But overall,
Yeah.
like I'll watch some daytime television. I'll say this. I was a little wrong about something. Fox has some daytime anchors that let's be anybody working for Fox is has a right leaning. They lean right. But you could say that about
Yep.
MSNBC. They all their people on there have a left. Even if they try to be neutral, they still clearly lean left. So everybody on Fox did. But I used to stick up for certain people. Brett Baer is one of them. I would always say, "Hey, Brett Baer is a pretty fair guy." Even when Kamala announced she was going to do her interview with Fox News and it was with Brett Baer, I think I told you it might have been on the podcast, might have just been on the phone, but I told you
Okay.
I was like, it's with Brett Baer. He's a pretty straight guy. It's not. I'm not gonna say it's a safe interview, but he's not like Hannity, dude.
Yeah.
He lost any semblance of like, he's fair and balanced. Like that interview.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched the whole thing or if you just saw clips, but that interview. First of all, I'm gonna say this about almost everything that happens from here to the election, but that was a Rorschach test. You know what a Rorschach test is?
No, fill me in.
A Rorschach test is the deal where it's ink blots on paper and they hold it up and say, "What do you see here?" Like a
Oh yeah, yeah.
psychological exam. And some people say, "I see a butterfly," and other people say, "I see somebody stabbing
Okay.
somebody." And what you see in it says something about you and your mind, I guess. The
Yeah.
Everything is a Rorschach test. I watched the Kamala interview and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like she stood up to him, like she didn't let him bully her. Like I thought she
Yeah.
did good. Immediately
He
afterward,
kept cutting
though,
her off big time.
he was he I he could see that she was trying to like it was almost like a debate. She treated it like a debate. He
Yeah.
asked her something and she would give a short answer and then pivot to attack Trump. And he started seeing where she was going towards how she was going to slam Trump on this, and he would try to jump in and cut her off before she could fully make her point slamming Trump. And she did the whole like, no, 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 like you asked a question, I'm gonna give my full answer here. But I think
Yeah.
it started to become clear to me like 5 minutes in that like, he's trying to prevent her from scoring any shots on Trump. And that's all she's trying to do. Like she's not even trying to get her
Yep.
message out. She's trying, and there are certain things like oh God, I'm trying to it was Milley saying that I don't know if you saw General Milley, who was one of Trump's generals, came out and said that he was a fascist and he was a danger to America. People on Fox
Yeah,
had
yeah.
people only on Fox had only heard that one time that whole week, and the only time they heard it was when Fox was airing a Kamala rally, and she said it on stage. None of
Oh.
their so there's certain things where like she was just trying to get it out there to where the Fox viewers that have no clue that some of this is going on. She was hoping that maybe 1 out of 100 would go, hold on, wait, what'd she say? And then they'd go Google it on their own and be like, oh shit, this is happening.
Yeah.
It might not have happened. She might have got 0 out of 100.
How many people are actually watching and listening to Kamala Harris on Fox News?
7 million. That's a big
Wait,
rating.
the that was the interview, but not
Yeah.
the
Oh, the
yeah,
rally. Yeah,
not
I
her
don't know.
rap.
But the interview got 7 million, which is more than any other events gotten this whole cycle. No Trump event or Kamala events gotten that much. So 7 million is a big number. Um,
That's a big number.
did she flip anybody? I don't know. If she flipped anybody, it's a small, like it's under 1%, but the margins matter. But I think it's
Yeah.
more likely that everybody who watched that walked away with the same thing they thought before. If they were already voting for Trump, if you were already voting for Trump and you like Fox News, then you think she was talking over Brett Baer and she was being angry and mean. And if you like Kamala and hate Fox News, you thought the opposite. You thought that Brett Baer was talking over to her. And so it's all a
Yeah.
Rorschach test. It's whatever you already believe coming into it, you're going to see something to confirm what you already thought. So that's
Yeah.
my thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is sad. I guess we're both in that camp as well, but
I'm trying not to be like I recognize in myself that like as soon as that was over, I was like, Kamala did good. And then it hit me right away. I was like, wait, I'm pro Kamala at this point. So did I just
yeah.
reaffirm what I thought I saw? And that's why I immediately started seeking out the right wing voices, and they were saying she did terrible in it. So I don't know.
Why didn't she go to the owl whatever dinner, the Catholic dinner in New York?
I think there's a couple different reasons. One of them is the day before that, I don't know the official name, but the Catholic Archdiocese or whatever of California had to pay an $830 million settlement for Catholic priests diddling little boys. So
Oh,
maybe not a good time to be seen around Catholics as they just had a big sexual assault payout. I don't know. That was one of the reasons that
okay.
I heard. I think there's probably a couple different reasons. Um,
Okay.
I yeah, I don't think that's going to hurt her that much. Anybody who's mad, she should have gone. Never. Then they weren't Kamala fans anyway. I don't think any Kamala fan is like, well, now I got to rethink my vote because she didn't go to the Catholic Al Smith fundraiser dinner. Plus, she
Yeah.
did do a video that like she basically they had a pre-taped video that she did at that thing. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Jim Gaffigan was pretty good at that.
he did
Did you
pretty
just
good.
watch
Yeah,
his?
I liked
Yeah.
him. He
I
had a
couldn't
couple
tell
funny
if he
jokes.
he seems a little Trumpy, but I can't really tell if he's
I
going
think
for
he's
Trump
trying to
or
do it.
Kamala.
So he was on the Rogan podcast 6, 8 months ago, and he said
Okay.
a couple left wing things, and Trump kind of or Rogan kind of jumped down his throat and started arguing about it, and he backed off real quick. So I think, and I don't blame him for this at all. There's certain comedians like Tom Segura is a great example. Like Tom Segura
Yeah.
has made a couple comments. He called Trump a toddler at one point, and he's made some,
Yeah.
but overall, he's trying to stay neutral. We talked about this a long time ago, but Michael Jordan famously said Republicans buy sneakers too, and he's not going to do anything to alienate half the
Yeah.
people buying his shit. If I was
For sure.
if I was famous and selling something, or if I ran a company, I would do everything I could to stay neutral and to not piss off the left or the right. I want everybody to shop with me or to listen to my podcast or whatever it is. So I don't blame them at all. And I think Gaffigan's the same way. But then he went to a roast where it's his job to make fun of the two candidates. So he
Yeah.
made fun of Trump a little bit. He made fun of Kamala a little bit. I thought he did a good job with it. So he had
Yeah.
one real funny thing about how the grabbing a cat has come up in 2 out of the last 3 election cycles or something having to do with Trump, the
Yeah.
Trump
Yeah.
grab by the pussy and they're eating the dogs and the cats.
Yeah.
Real quick, I have a list of stuff down here, but I'm gonna jump ahead because it has to do with the dogs and the cats. Um, Trump had a second interview on Fox, or probably more than a second, but his most recent one was with Howard Kurtz, I believe the guy's name is. Um,
Yeah.
this was either yesterday or today, and I got to give that Howard Kurtz guy credit because he tried to kind of fact check Trump on some stuff, and he said, "Hey, Mr. President, you said the thing about they're eating the pets, they're eating the dogs and the cats, and that's not true. Do you wish you hadn't said that?" And Trump was like, "No, we don't know that it's not true. I saw plenty of reports on that." And Kurtz kept kind of saying that. At one point, Kurtz like stopped the interview and cut to him at a different location, and it was about the 2020 election being stolen. So he like cut away from the interview to do a fact check and was like, "We have to say legally that what Mr. Trump's saying here has not been proven in a court of law." Blah blah blah. So like,
Yeah.
kind of fact checked his whole interview, which props to Fox News or I guess to that one
Good.
reporter. Because of
Yep.
that, though, Trump went on Fox and Friends the day after the Kamala interview. I don't know if you saw this, and he complained the whole time about the fact that Fox lets liberals on the show, and he's
Oh yeah.
mad because
Yeah.
he thinks that they shouldn't be on there because they're talking bad about him. And then he said at the end of the interview, he said he was going to go upstairs and talk to Rupert Murdoch because he doesn't like the fact that they're running anti-Trump ads on that station, that they're letting liberals talk, and like oh, okay, we're doing the whole Trump is about the First Amendment and free speech, but Trump is mad that a channel is allowing the other side to talk. Like anybody at this
Yep.
point that's still saying that Trump's the free speech candidate, like to me that's so laughable. But I also know there's a lot of people that fully 100% think that if Trump doesn't win, we're going to lose free speech. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
so the guy
Well,
that he
what are all his thing? He doesn't want he wants to imprison flag burners. He's
it,
called for like MSNBC, CBS, like a couple of people have their license revoked.
he said if you
Um,
criticize the Supreme Court judges, you should get put in jail. It's
Oh, yeah, yeah.
he said a 1 year mandatory minimum sentence for flag burning, which flag burning is there's been a Supreme Court case about that. That is the First Amendment. We've talked
Yep.
about this. I don't want to see the flag get burned, but I also think that's what makes America great is that you can do that. If I saw somebody doing it, I'd get pissed, but you can't make that
Yeah.
illegal. So yeah, that I every time I hear somebody and Elon's shouting it everywhere he goes that, Trump is the candidate that's going to save free speech. It makes no sense to me. If you're paying attention to what he's saying, I don't get how it could make sense. But we talked about this last time. I think a lot of people that are voting for Trump are purposely not paying attention to what he's saying. They don't want to hear it. If you try to tell them what he's saying, they're like la 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 la, like they don't want to know. They'd rather
Yeah.
just They'd rather think they know what he's saying. Like in their mind, they think he's saying a certain thing, and they want to believe that. So,
Yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird. Like if you
mhm.
watch both candidates, like just at a rally, let's just say, like Kamala seems like the saner person.
To me and you,
Like,
yes, but to somebody else, they look at
well, they're
both
not
of them.
watching the rallies. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Trump supporters don't want to watch the rallies because he goes off on these weird
mhm.
weaves. We'll call them weaves.
The weave. He's been talking. You can tell that it's getting to him. That's what kills me is you can tell he reads the comments. You know how like famous people always say like don't read the comments. It's gonna mess with your mind. Don't do it. Trump is fully aware. Like when people talk about how he's wandering and he can't stay on track and all that, he sees that and then he feels the need to come out and justify it. Oh, I'm doing the weave and this and that. Um,
Yep.
I don't know if you saw the other thing real quick about free speech. This isn't really free speech, but you see where he wants to he was saying that he wanted to use the National Guard or the military to get the enemy from within. What's
Yep.
hysterical about this is he said it twice. Fox News, for the third time he said it, Fox News gave him a chance to kind of teed it up for him. Hey, Mr. Trump, they're saying that you're going to use the military on the Democrats. That's not what you're going to do, right? And he was like,
He
"No,
mentioned
I
Nancy
think." No,
Pelosi
at first,
and Shift.
so he started by saying, like, no, I think that's pretty accurate, which that's just him confirming it. But then he said the Pelosi's, Adam Schiff, um, Brett Baer during the Kamala interview said, well, we actually have a clip. Let's play it. And she called him out. She said, hey, that's not the clip. And then I don't know if you saw this, but the next day, Bayer came out on Fox News and said, hey, I need to apologize. The clip that I played was misleading. I thought we were going to play another clip, but we played a different clip than I thought. So that's on me. I apologize. So little bit of props to Brett Baer for coming out because he was getting killed for that. But
Yeah, but it's like a retraction on page 12,
it is.
Like there
But
were
even
7 million people watching that. When did he do his retraction on that
the
or
next day
apologize?
during the midday when none of the Trump people are
Yeah.
watching. Um,
Hmm.
but the clip that they played, they cut out the beginning of that where he said, "No, it's accurate. I'm talking about Pelosi. I'm talking about Schiff," and they only played at the very end where he kind of tried to back off of it. So, anywho, he said he wants to use the military on Dems, which he said it twice. Then he confirmed it to Harris Faulkner, and then it
Well,
was funny. Hold on, real quick. It was funny because over the past Friday and Saturday, a bunch of Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and people like that were going on the shows and trying to say, no, that's not what he meant. He's that's not what he was saying, or they always try to say, well, that might be what he said, but that's not what he means. Real quick side note, people that always say like I like Trump because he says what he means, then why is everybody always trying to tell you what he really means? It's like, well, no, but this is what he
yeah.
said, and then somebody, oh, that's not what he was really saying. I thought he says what he means. Anyhow, they went on and like Jake Tapper had Johnson on, and when Mike Johnson tried to say that, Jake Tapper stopped him cold and was like, "No, like let me play for you what he said." And then Mike Johnson still tried to say, "Well, that's not what he meant." Then, after they all tried to do that for 2 days, Trump went on with that Howard Kurtz today and tripled down and said, no, I'm going to use the military on the Dems. So it's like, why would you waste your time trying to go out and defend what he says? Because he's only going to make you look stupid. After he came out today with that interview with Howard Kurtz, like, I don't see how you can try to say that's not what he means. Like, he very much explained what he means. And Howard Kurtz
He's been saying that for 4 years now.
he never went as far to
He
say he said he was going to use the military on the
right.
protesters. Okay. Which
Yeah.
is different. It's still the U.S. military should never be deployed on our soil against our people
No,
ever. That's not the point of the
ever.
military. But I think there's some Republicans that wouldn't mind that. Like when you say, oh, the Democrats are rioting, I think a lot of Republicans would be like, get the military, they'll take care of it. I don't agree with that, but I think 30% of the country might. That's not what he's saying though. He's saying he wants to use it against the Pelosi's and Schiff. So take that for
Yep,
what you
that's
will.
scary. That's real scary.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
he could come after us for this podcast.
100%. Yeah, it's interesting. But hey,
That
hey, he wouldn't do that because this is free speech, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
free
no, he
speech.
doesn't give a
Oh,
shit
free
about free
speech.
speech. And that's the thing is he thinks that people criticizing him or the Supreme Court, that should be punishable like by I don't know if he said jail or not, but he said that like basically you should have to go to court for that. That's not free speech. Um, real quick, he and this is my other funny Trump thing. So that Harris Faulkner town hall he did, I don't know, did you get to watch any of that? It was the day.
I didn't. I watched clips of it, but not the whole thing.
Okay, so it was interesting because it was a town hall centering on women's issues, and like the audience seemed to love him. Like right off the bat, like everything he said, they were laughing, they were clapping. And a town
Yeah.
hall is supposed to be like neutral people coming to ask questions. Like that's kind of how a town hall is. And right off the bat, I was like, man, it seems like they packed this place with like his supporters. Turns out they did. Like all the different ladies that answered, that asked, got to stand up and ask questions. Like the first one was like the head of the Fulton County GOP, which Fulton County is Atlanta, that
Oh,
area. So she's the head of the Fulton County Republican Party. And she was, hi, I'm so and so, and this is my question for you, Mr. President. And they went through and they were able to identify who all the women were that asked questions, and they're all part of the state Republican Party. So
did
they
they actually
packed,
say their names?
they said their first name. They didn't say their first and last name, but they said their first name. And based off that, like they were able to, they got pictures online now, and you can see, oh, they set it up to be an easy interview. Now, what's funny about that is he did that afternoon. And then while Kamala was doing her Fox interview, he was doing a Univision town hall. Did you see any of the clips from that?
Um,
Univision is the
was that the one
Spanish.
where it was kind of a debate where
No,
he was
so
like,
that was the Spanish speaking station. So everybody that was asking questions was
oh,
doing it in Spanish, and somebody was translating it.
okay,
There's a great clip, but one guy that I'll get to the best one in a second. One of the people asked about gun laws, and they said, "Hey, our kids are not safe in school, this and that." And he said, "Well, you need guns for hunting and for this and that," and like just totally didn't. He wasn't sensitive to what they were saying, and they panned the audience, and you could see the audience was like, it was a lot of women, and they were just shaking their head, like almost in disbelief
oh,
that what he was saying.
oh, good.
Then this guy gets up and he does the January 6th stuff. And he said, hey, I voted for you in 16. I didn't vote for you in 20. I want to give you the opportunity to get my vote back. January 6th. It was bad, this and that. And he basically he's looking for Trump to say, yeah, that was a bad thing. And Trump does the whole, it was a day of love and blah, blah, blah. It was beautiful. And they go to the audience again, and the look on these women's faces is better than the first time. Like several of them are like, what the fuck is he in it? At one point, he says, and nobody, he goes, Ashley Babbitt was the only one that got killed that day. Nobody got killed. And it's like, well, hold on, but anyhow, it
Day
was,
of love.
it did not go well. And it's funny to watch the two, like clips of the two events back to back. Cause like the first one set up with Trump supporters, everything he said got a laugh, every answer he had got applause. Then to the Univision one where it's not, dude, that audience was cold as hell to him. Like, I don't think he won any
Good.
Hispanic voters. On that note, Mark Cuban's in Arizona today, and he's given economic speeches to Hispanic audiences and telling them that
Oh,
with Kamala in office, you will make more money and your family will be better off. And he's doing it in a good way. If she pulls it out, Mark Cuban gets a lot of credit here. Okay. That being said,
okay.
even though the shit he's been saying is crazy, if Trump pulls it out, Elon gets a lot of credit for it. Elon's giving speeches in Pennsylvania like three or four a day. He
Yeah.
offered. Did you see where he offered to give away $1 million a day to one random person that like signs his pledge? And it came out tonight
Whoa.
that while that doesn't violate campaign finance reform laws, it does violate the state's gambling laws. Um,
Oh,
so that'll be interesting. That just came out tonight, and I don't know if
interesting.
anything will happen with that at all, but that's kind of a fun little side note there. So Elon,
Huh.
I'll tell you, one of my buddies today watching football, excuse me, he said, I'd like to watch Elon speak. And he said he would like to go like pay to see Elon speak somewhere. And I had to stop. I was
Hmm.
like, pay to see him speak about like politics in the election or pay to speak about like AI or SpaceX? And he was like, oh, probably,
Yeah.
AI and SpaceX. And I was like, I would actually go listen to Elon talk about stuff like that. Like, I'd love to hear it. He's good at that and he's smart. But have you watched him trying to talk politics at these rallies?
Yeah, he's not good. He's
He's
bored.
not good. He's just, it's not his personality. Like, it's just some
No.
people are built to like rally to fire up a crowd. Elon's not built for
He
that.
doesn't
Like,
really have his personality's not that great. Like, yeah, he
yeah,
even on Rogan. Remember, he was on Rogan, and
yeah.
it wasn't like the greatest of interviews. It was cool because he smoked weed for the first time or whatever, but like,
It's just
and it
awkward
was
to
cool
listen
to
to.
hear him talk.
He,
Yeah, he's
I'm trying
just
to remember.
yeah,
He has like, is it like Asperger's or something? Like, doesn't he have some kind of a thing?
yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah, whatever he's got some kind of a social deal where like he's just not fluid to talk to. Uh,
Right.
But if, like I said, he's putting all his time and money into Pennsylvania right now. She needs Pennsylvania unless she gets North Carolina. I didn't pull the polls up tonight, but I will say every one of the swing states is margin of error. Like this is so close. Like I told one of my Republican buddies today, and I need to tell you too. Like if Trump wins, you need to see that coming. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's entirely possible. And I told him today if Harris wins, it's not, Dominion flipping votes. Like you need to be ready. It could be either one of them. Like that's where we're at. This is a toss up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I did see a headline today that said Missouri was going to swing blue.
I would doubt that. I don't,
Yeah, I didn't look into it. I just saw a headline and I kind of moved past it, but I was like, that's kind of cool.
I'm trying to, I'm very curious because I
Yeah.
feel like not at all. Like St. Louis is like the biggest voting center there. Missouri says, so what I'm looking at, and I'm looking at 538, which is respected, has Trump up 13 points in Missouri.
Okay. All right.
So I'm going to say
Cool.
no to that. That doesn't pass the
Yeah.
smell test for me. But who
Okay.
knows? I I think that I think right now she's got a better chance in North Carolina than people think she does.
Okay.
Georgia, I'm a little concerned about Georgia. I don't think she can pull that off. Arizona seems to not be at all in play. But it still comes down to Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Can she win those three? And all three of those, like she's up, but she's up like half a point. Like
Do you think Trump has Arizona?
yeah, it looks like it. He's up like
Hmm.
3 or 4 points in Arizona. Not for
Okay.
sure, but part of the thing is he's doing way better with Hispanics. He's losing white people, but gaining Hispanics. There's a big
Okay.
Hispanic population in Arizona. Wisconsin and Michigan are more white, and that's why she's doing better there. So it's kind of
Okay.
we're seeing a total realignment of the parties right now. Like there's a
Yeah.
sector of like, and they keep saying like, oh, Trump's doing great with black men like so typically Republicans win like 4 or 5% of the black vote, and he's going to win like 10%. So like he doesn't have a big
Wow.
share, but he's going to win 1 out of 10 of them supposedly, according to the polls. The other thing, people keep pointing this out. You know what group of women, or I just gave you the answer, but you know what group shows up to vote the most?
Women.
Women. Women make a plan and go show up to vote.
Okay.
Older men over 35 tend to show up to vote. Men
Yep.
18 to 35, they're the least reliable. Like you have to go
Yeah.
knock on their door and drag them by the ear to the poll to make them go vote. Black men
Yep.
under 35 is even less than white men under 35. So if
Okay.
you're polling black men and they're saying, yeah, Trump, I'm going to vote for Trump, how many of them are actually going to get out on election day and vote? I don't mean like I hope that's not taken as racist, but that's just the stats. Like women vote the
Yeah.
most, men under 35 vote the least, and black men under 35 vote even less. So that's what we're looking
Interesting.
like. So it's totally going to be a vote. This is because it's so close. This is now a turnout game. Who can get their voters out to actually put the ballot in the box? Everybody's saying that Democrats have a better ground game, so they have the advantage there. But I don't quite trust that. Like Charlie Kirk's organization, what is that? TPA, what is it? TPS? I can't. You know what his Turning Point? That's what it is.
Oh, okay.
So Turning Point, basically,
USA.
he is running the whole ground game in Arizona. So like Trump he's doing the Republican thing, which I guess you got to give him credit for sticking to Republican thoughts, but like he is privatizing it all. So he's having Charlie Kirk run Arizona, he's having Elon run Georgia and Pennsylvania. I don't know what he's doing in Wisconsin or Michigan. I don't think he's putting a lot of thought into that because he doesn't need to win those two if he wins Pennsylvania. But like
Oh,
he's basically subcontracted out his ground game. Like the GOP, the political party, is not handling the ground game in any of these states. So
hmm.
anyhow,
Okay.
um, real quick, have you heard of the whole like Trump exhaustion thing?
Yes.
where he
Yeah. And but he did like 3 tours today, even including he worked at McDonald's for a little bit.
I
And he
saw
keeps
that.
saying that he said that Kamala's that McDonald's came out and Kamala never worked for McDonald's.
That's not so. McDonald's came out
Which
and said
is
we don't have any records of anyone who worked for McDonald's in the 70s. So I think it was the early 80s, whatever it was. They didn't keep
okay.
records of that. So there are no records showing she worked there because they don't have records of anybody working there. The McDonald's he worked at is actually a McDonald's that's closed down right now. It was closed down due to health violations. So it's not even an
Oh,
open functioning McDonald's. There's video because they had some cars come through the drive-through and they like he like leaned out the window,
yeah.
hey, how you doing? Oh, that's a handsome young man in the car. Like he seemed really personable. And then videos came out where they had those cars. Those cars were people that like staged, I guess, and they even rehearsed it. They had the cars come through the drive-through, had him. So they did like a dress rehearsal for it all before the cameras,
God.
and people were standing out there in the parking lot recording it with their cell phones. So it was totally scripted, but it was a campaign event, and I think a lot of campaign events are scripted. But yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't an open functioning McDonald's. That was a closed McDonald's with his supporters coming through the drive-through
So can he get billed with healthcare violations for
for serving the food
not
there.
healthcare?
Yeah,
Because it was closed down due to violations,
I
right?
guess. I
And
guess
they're serving fries out of it.
if they didn't sell it to the people, then I guess not. I don't know. I don't know how that all
Hmm.
works. Um,
Interesting.
but on the Trump exhaustion, in the past week, Trump canceled the 60 or past week and a half. He canceled the 60 Minutes interview. He canceled that interview with CNBC Squawk Box, that's like a financial show, and they're pretty pro Trump. And they even said they were like, we have no clue why he canceled. Like we're on his side, and he canceled that. Officially said there's not going to be another debate. He'd already pretty much said that, but he was very firm this week that there is no more debates coming. He did not agree to go on the CNN town hall coming up. He canceled an NBC interview. He canceled an appearance at the NRA rally, which that's as friendly as stuff can be, but he
Oh
canceled
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Huh.
And apparently the campaign is telling these people like he's exhausted. He can't keep going. Now, he's still rallying, and the theory that everybody's always said is the rallies actually give him energy. Like that is almost him recharging. Like he needs that. He needs to feel the love from his people. So he's not going to stop doing
Yeah.
the rallies. But the interviews, they weren't going well for him. So I think he's not going to put himself in an unsafe space interview wise. And that was the crack on Kamala forever, was that she only does safe interviews. And now Trump these last couple of weeks is
Yeah.
only going to do the safest of
She
interviews.
went to Fox and she went to Fox and did that.
All right. So, and then the only other thing I mentioned the NRA a couple minutes ago, as far as Trump backing out of the interview. But did you see this? This is just kind of embarrassing for the NRA. But did you see them getting laughed at for the post they put up about Tim Walz hunting? Did you see that at all?
Yeah, I listened to it. I briefly, yeah, I heard,
Okay.
yeah.
So Tim Walz, they had him out dove hunting recently for a campaign type event. And at the end of the hunt, he unloads his shotgun and he does it exactly the way they would teach you to do it in a gun safety course. He has the gun leaning away from him, upside down. He's unloading one shell at a time. It's textbook how you unload a shotgun, and they put a picture of him holding it, and they said, I wish I could remember what it said, but it said like Tim Walz doesn't even know how to load a shotgun right or something like that. And like
Oh,
they got community noted immediately, and it was like Tim Walz is unloading the shotgun here, and he's actually doing it the exact way that they would teach you to do it in a gun safety class.
okay.
And then everybody was dunking out the NRA after that because it's kind of embarrassing that the NRA isn't familiar with the proper way to unload a shotgun. But that's where we're at these days. I know you got to think that's probably some social media manager for the NRA that who knows, maybe doesn't even know a whole lot about guns. But
Yeah, they're just putting out propaganda just to
totally. But
rile up the base a little
community,
bit.
as much as I don't like what Elon's done with Twitter, community notes has proven to be quite hysterical recently, especially when it happens like to Elon. Like I always get the biggest kick out of that.
I
Um,
haven't been on X since, I mean,
huh.
maybe
I
once.
can't quit it. Like I know that it's bad for me, but I just can't quit it. Like it's the only place like because of that, I know that Marge, man, just 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was telling you that Marge was acting pretty normal, and then she came out with the whole they're controlling the weather. Now
Yep.
she is sounding the siren that in Georgia, early voting has already started, and Dominion is flipping the votes. She's already on that thing, and she said they're getting reports that votes are being flipped by the machines, and then of course it turns out it was one Facebook post where it's like The Facebook post was basically like, my friend went down today and she said she voted this way. And when the paper ballot came out, it was wrong and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, who was this lady? Who is her friend? That county came out immediately and said, we've had no reports of this happening. So that seems to be the play for Republicans these days is somebody makes a Facebook post and then they say, oh, we've seen reports.
Yeah.
If you saw a Facebook post, you didn't see reports. You saw a Facebook post. And
Yeah.
as an elected representative, your first move should be to call that county, that whoever's in charge of voting for that, and say, "Hey, I saw on Facebook that somebody said this happened. What's going on?" And they would have said, "Oh, nobody's complained at all about voting." So they're purposely not checking on this shit because they want to run with it. They did it with they're eating the dogs and the cats. They're doing it with voting. But I can tell you right now, Dominion, Elon on stage the other day kind of brought back up the whole Dominion tried to steal the election and flip the votes and all that. And Dominion, if you remember, this is the company that won a $787 million lawsuit from Fox.
Yep.
Um, Newsmax and OAN both settled the case, so we don't know how much they had to pay. That's confidential.
Oh
They
God.
sued Rudy Giuliani, and they got like a lot. I think it was like 30 million out of Giuliani. I can't
Damn.
remember for sure how much they got, but they cleaned house. They won every case. And in every instance in court, whoever it was, Giuliani, Fox News, this is their chance. Okay, show us the evidence. Show us the evidence. And every time they got there and said, we have no evidence. So,
Wow.
anyhow, Elon the other day goes in and brings up Dominion and Dominion flipping the votes. And
Ooh.
again, Dominion sent him a letter ASAP that was basically a cease and desist. This is your warning, or else we're going to sue you. And then Elon went out the next day and said the same thing after receiving the letter. The thing is, if they sue Elon, they're going to get, I would say, under 50 million. Let's say they even got 200 million. Elon's got the money to pay that. So
Yeah.
there's a part of me that I think Elon saw that letter and said, "Let them sue me. Like I'll settle. Like they can have it. Like so he's just
Yeah.
going to keep doing it." But I think after this election, one way or another, Dominion's going to be back in court against probably the right wing channels and a couple right wing representatives. They're
Oh
probably
yeah.
going to win all the cases. So get ready for
Well,
that.
well, Fox is probably not gonna say anything anymore. Like they're done. I've
Oh, Fox got the biggest settlement that we know of there, not settlement, the biggest judgment against them, 787
yeah.
million. And that's why even Howard Kurtz today, when Trump talked about the 2020 election being stolen, they cut from the interview to him sitting
Yeah.
at a desk and he was like, now we have to say, and he gave all the legalese. But yeah,
Yeah.
Fox is very weary about getting sued. I mean, that's a lot of money for a company to lose. And they have to answer to, shareholders and board members, and they can't justify that. So
Did Kamala get more viewers on Fox News than Trump?
yeah, but yes, Trump got I think Trump got right around 3 million and she got 7.1 million.
Holy moly.
Part of that was Trump's on Fox all the time. So Trump
Yeah.
doing a town hall on Fox is nothing new. And also it was on, I think at like 3 in the afternoon. So not primetime viewing hours. The Kamala Brett Baer interview was on at 6 or 7. So
Yeah.
primetime viewing and holy shit, Kamala's going on Fox. Like that's
Yeah.
newsworthy. People are gonna
Yeah.
drop what they're doing and tune into that. No, like I said,
Her
Trump's on
ratings are just
Fox.
better. I mean, her ratings are just way better than Trump's.
So I see what you're saying. And right now, God, I don't know if you saw, but the rally he had I think it was in Michigan the other night. They had reporters on the ground that were like, "Hey, this venue is small and it's not even full," and they were turning the camera on. And this is while Trump was on stage speaking. This was like about 20 minutes into his speech. They show and the place is empty, and like Trump's
Oh,
just not. He's not drawing as big a crowd.
yeah.
Take that for I don't think that means that he's going to lose or that they don't have the energy. I like remember in
Yeah.
2020 that was Trump's whole thing. Is like Biden can't even draw a crowd, and then Biden won.
Yeah.
So don't read into that too much. But my favorite part of that, did you see where somebody heckled Kamala at her rally the other day? And she said,
No.
"Oh, uh so every now and then she has moments at her rallies that really hit good, and they're kind of pre-scripted. I'll bet money she had this one in the bag. She was waiting on the opportunity to drop this.
Dope.
But whatever they said, she leaned forward. She goes, "Oh, I think you're at the wrong rally." And everybody started laughing and cheering. And she goes, "You're looking for the other rally down the street, the smaller one." And like the crowd went nuts. The crowd, and you know that Trump saw that clip and it fucking pissed him off.
That's awesome.
but she delivered it really well, and it was a moment, and it's like, okay, she's feeling confident right now.
Yeah.
One thing that I'd like to get your take on, there's been for the past week reports that Trump's going to do Rogan, okay? And Rogan said like 2 years ago that he has no desire to help Trump and he doesn't want to have him on.
Yeah.
They're saying now that there's talks being had. None of this is confirmed, but it appears that Rogan basically said, "Hey, if I'm going to have Trump on, I got to offer to have Kamala on." And
Yep.
apparently, Kamala's camp is in discussions with going on Rogan.
Good.
I'll say after I would have said no. Pre-Fox interview, I would have said, "Don't do that. That's not going to go well for you." After watching her against Brett Baer, let her go. Let her go on Rogan. Like, let her
Yeah.
go. Like,
No, she'll
I
run
love to
circles
see
around
that.
Rogan in
Yeah,
politics.
I think so. And
Yeah. And Trump's just
I
going to look bad, so I'm excited for both. I would like to see both of them go on there. I'd like to see them both go on at the same time.
The thing is, I think Joe is smart enough to know that either one of them could win, and he doesn't want to pick a side here.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to do the thing.
He's already picked a
He
side
gets
though. Hold on.
he on. I know, but as far he doesn't want to, he doesn't want people to say that he swayed the election. I think. I'm
Mhm.
just guessing. Okay.
Okay.
Um, but you know he gets criticized all the time, and I criticize him for it, but I understand what he's saying. But he does this thing where he's like, it's not my job to push back. Like I let the people talk, and like I'm not going to just challenge them on everything they say. That's when he has some kook on, okay? And I
Hmm.
think he's going to take the same approach with both of them, where he's just going to kind of let them talk, and it's up to the audience to see if it's true or not. And if
Ooh.
he does that equally, if he does that to Trump and then he does that to Kamala, and he just lets them both come on and kind of talk, then I'm cool with it. I don't think he would do this, but the fear would be that he comes on and he lets Trump spout all kinds of bullshit and never challenges him. And he goes, "Oh, really? They're eating the pets? I can't believe
Yeah.
that," kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Kamala comes on and he pulls a Brett Baer and he's talking over her and won't let her get a point
Mhm.
out. And I don't think he's going to do that. But at this point, I don't think there's any place I wouldn't send Kamala. I don't think it's going to do any harm. Like, I still
I
say,
called it last on the last episode. I called it. I was like, send her over there. Like,
yeah,
yeah, like
well,
she can't hurt her Fox viewership. She can't hurt her
well,
chances with Fox viewers. She can only improve upon it, and she did a great job. And she
yeah, and
she she did the district attorney thing, and she fought back, and she kind of
the
took it as a debate, kind of.
One, how many Kamala viewers A are watching Joe Rogan to begin with, but B, if she goes on there and her and Joe battle and she maybe doesn't look great, how many people are going to go, I'm not voting for Kamala now. She went on Joe and she didn't do that good. No,
Zero.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think she's going to lose any voters. I think that the only thing she could possibly do is either gain a very small percentage of Trump voters, or more importantly, make some people that this is what I think their target is. I think going on the Fox interview and possibly going on Rogan, I don't think they're trying to flip any voters. I think they've given up on that. Nobody's going from Trump to Kamala right now. What
Yeah.
might happen, what there's a chance might happen is there's a percentage of voters that don't really like Trump, but they're probably going to vote for him. But maybe you could make them question that enough to go, I'm just not going to vote. And I think that's where they're at now. They're at the point where they're trying to make a couple people that aren't really big on Trump stay home. And
Yeah.
that seemed based off the way she handled the
Good
Fox
move.
interview, it seemed like that's what she was trying to do. She was trying to put doubt in the mind of those voters. So it's
Yeah.
not a bad strategy. I wish we were in a society where like you could possibly win people over and switch them. I don't think anybody's switching. I think we're so locked in at this point that even if you see something that's very compelling, you're going to say that's fake or blah blah blah. Like you're not going to go, oh, maybe I should rethink this.
Yeah.
No.
So the only thing you're doing now, or they're doing now, is trying to get people to come out for them and not for the other candidate.
Yes. And
Yeah.
that's what Trump did really good in 16. In 2016, he depressed it's called depressing the vote, and he depressed the Democratic vote. He made enough people say, Hillary's probably corrupt, blah blah, all the different reasons to not like Hillary, which there's a lot of reasons to not like Hillary. But
Yep.
he got enough people to feel that way that they just didn't go out and vote, and he won a very low turnout election. The only, in my opinion, we talked about this a couple different times, but his ceiling is like 46, 47%. Like he's never going to get over 50%. Okay.
Right.
So the only way he wins is with a low turnout election where people don't show up to vote for the other side. If it's a high turnout election, he's in trouble. That's why he goes negative. It worked in 16. It didn't really work in 20. He's still trying. It's the third time. It's worked once, didn't work the other time.
I
So
think we're gonna have a high turnout election like the last one.
based off all the early voting numbers are shattering records. Even this Georgia is messing with my mind because I want to say I don't think she can win Georgia. He's up consistently 2 points ish in Georgia, but man, they have set records every day of early voting. Maybe it's the 18. Here's the thing. It could be the 18 to 35-year-old white males that traditionally don't vote that Trump has been busting his ass working on. Maybe
Yeah.
those are the people showing up. It could be all the women. There's been a huge spike. It's like women voters have spiked like 450% since Roe versus Wade.
Whoa.
Um, all kinds of, and the Swifties,
Whoa.
and
Yeah.
so this election's going to be decided on the 18 to 35, but it's a matter of is it the girls or is it the guys?
I
And we
call a
won't know
Kamala
till after the
blowout.
election.
I call a Kamala blowout as soon as she entered the race.
Docs, I don't think you're dumb. Okay. I want to make that clear before I say what I'm about to say next. That's the most ignorant shit I've heard out of your mouth in a while. It's not going to be a blowout. Now, electoral college wise, it could
Was
appear a
Biden a
blowout.
blowout? Biden blew Trump out
No,
of the water.
no, he didn't.
Electorally, he did.
But that doesn't matter. So Biden, Biden electorally got like what was it 312 votes or whatever?
I don't
I
remember.
can't remember exactly what it was. Yeah, if you can pull that up.
It was like
Um,
276 to, yeah.
I think Trump got 312 in 2016 is what it is. But let's say that she pulls off the blue wall, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and then she also gets North Carolina and Nevada, say. Like it's gonna look like a blowout on the electoral college, but I guarantee you the margin in all three of those states is gonna be like 15 or 20,000 tops. Like the
So
number of
Biden,
votes that
306 to 232.
yeah, and that
That's a
that
blowout,
looks like a
right?
blowout. But then when you look at all the individual states, he won Georgia by 11,000 votes. He won Pennsylvania by like 20,000 votes. That's a small margin in all those states. So it's not
I still
it
call a
it
blowout.
I'm not going to call it a blowout on the margins. Now, maybe like I said, that I'd think she could easily win the blue wall plus North Carolina, and that right there would make it look like a blowout. Um,
Okay.
but like I said, all four of those states are going to be razor thin and also contested. More than anything, if he does not win, oh dude, November and December are gonna suck. Like it's gonna be January 6th, but worse. Like he's gonna challenge it all. He's already rounding them up. He's telling them that the Democrats are gonna
Yeah.
cheat. Um,
But at
yeah,
least he doesn't have any power right now. He has zero power.
and the only thing is he has certain states where Republicans control things. Like in
Yeah.
Georgia, for example, Georgia is the one state that I'll say I just said that I think that there's a chance. I also don't think that they'll let her win. I think there's a either Trump wins or they do not send a slate of electors at all. They'll say that there were problems with the election and they can't certify it.
Who's the
I
governor?
Brian Kemp, who
Kemp.
last time, last time him and Jeff Duncan and Gabe Sterling, his lieutenant governor and secretary of state or whatever, I can't remember their titles, they all stood up to Donald Trump and they said, no, sir, this was a fair election. Since then, they've had a bunch of MAGA people take over the Georgia election boards, and they've
Oh,
changed a bunch. They've changed a bunch of rules to where the governor really doesn't have any power. Like the
oh
election board has all the
no.
power. Yeah,
Who
so
changed him? Their Supreme Court?
they did, and then it got challenged and it went to court. And actually, there's this dude named Mark Elias that has been like he's been like the main lawyer for the Democrats in all these cases in 2020, and he won like all but one of the cases. He's very good. And he's won a couple cases against the Georgia board, so it's not as bad as it could be, but it's still like it's a different ball game in Georgia than it was in 2020. The election board has way more power. You looking at Mark Elias?
No, I'm looking up how many states have early voting because it'll be available in most states. Okay. Well, because
Yeah.
the election's on a Tuesday. I feel
It's
like
always
that's
on a Tuesday. That's dumb.
I know it's the stupidest thing, right? Like people are going to take off work to go vote on election day. Like it's
Elections should be on
it's like set up
Saturdays.
to have less voting.
Yeah. Well, and we've talked about that, but Republicans live it that way, and there's no way, like overall, and this is really weird, but Republicans don't want everybody of legal age to vote. Like that would be
Yeah.
bad for them. If we had
Yeah.
100% voter turnout, Republicans would not win many elections. So they very much like the fact that it's a Tuesday and it's hard for a lot of people to get that day off work.
So
It's
bad.
good for
It's
them.
such a
Yeah.
bad system. Like
Yeah. Well,
make it easy to vote. It should be the easiest thing to do. It's
so Trump and Elon have been saying that they want to get rid of early and absentee voting and just have one day of voting, all paper ballots. Okay. There's so many issues with this because their big thing that they keep saying is, well, how come it takes 3 days to figure out? Or like this time, Pennsylvania could take like 5 or 6 days to figure out. Like, I'm just warning
Yeah.
you up front. Like, that's what we're looking at. And they keep complaining about that. But then they also say they want paper ballots hand counted. Do you know how long that's going to take? If you go to paper ballots hand counted, nothing's coming in on election night. They're going to be counting, every state will be counting for multiple days. So
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense at all. But they also want to do with all forms of, so absentee absentee voting is the big umbrella term, and underneath that you have mail-in ballots are a form of absentee, but there's other kinds, and one of them is like military people
Military, yeah.
overseas. Like if they're in the military and you're stationed in Iraq or wherever you're stationed, like you should still clearly get to vote, right? That's a form of absentee voting.
Okay.
Republicans don't want that. They want to do away with all absentee voting and have only in-person day of election paper ballots.
So
And I'm
military
just
can't
like,
vote anymore. Overseas military is not allowed to vote in our election anymore
it's
under
it's like they
Trump.
it's like they don't think about these things because they come out and they all say we want to do away with all of it, and it's like, well, what about the military? And they're like, oh, well, okay, yeah, there should be exceptions for military. Okay, well then what about? And then once you get through all the whatabouts, they're like, okay, so in other words, you're okay with absentee voting, right? Because it seems like you are now. So basically, they don't like the way that the Democrats are really good at doing. It's illegal to harvest ballots. Have you ever heard of ballot harvesting?
Yep.
So it's illegal to do that in most states, not all states actually, but in most states. But that's where if you were the Democratic Party in, let's just say in Denver, you would make it your goal leading up to the election to go around and make sure that everybody who you can get to do it would apply for an absentee ballot, a mail-in ballot. Okay.
Mm,
And then you would show back up at their house and be like, hey, have you filled out your ballot yet? Here, let's do it. Why don't you fill it out real quick and give it to me and I'll go turn it in for you. And it's just it's the ground game, as you will. Now,
right.
there's certain ways to do that legally and there's certain ways to do that illegally. And part of it's like one person can't do it for more than 6 people or whatever it is. Or in some
Sure.
states, you can only do it for your immediate family. So I could do it for my wife and my kid and my parents, but that's it. Um, the Democrats know the rules in every state and they go right up to the line of what you're allowed to do and then they don't cross it.
Yeah.
Republicans just go, oh, look, they're ballot harvesting. Well, what they're doing, I guess you could say is ballot harvesting, but it's legal within the rules of that state. And that's what they're really good at. I
Okay.
still say if Republicans were smart, they would figure out how to do that shit and then just do it just as good as the Democrats do. And
Yeah.
they'd have a lot better time winning. Instead, Trump is always saying, don't vote by mail, it's corrupt. And it's like, no, he should be telling all the old Republicans to vote by mail because that's one way to make sure they're going to get their vote in. They might, if it's raining
Yeah.
on the day of the election, they might not go. They're old, they're weak.
Well,
So
do you think it's the Republican Party isn't really backing Trump that much anymore? Or do you think it's Trump saying like, no, no, I got this. I'm gonna take care of this, my campaign on my own. I don't need you Republicans.
so that's a multi-tiered answer I'm about to give you. Okay, I think that there are senators for sure. Like there's reporting that there's multiple senators that they won't go on record, but they think it'd be better off if Trump lost this round. And they say that if he loses, but they win the Senate, because if they win the Senate, they can keep Kamala in check and not let her do anything too crazy. And they
Right.
they still think that if Trump loses, there's a chance that the old school Republicans, could retake the party. I don't think that's happening. I think Trumpism and MAGA is not leaving. I used to think that was the case. In the past 2 or 3 weeks, I don't. I think JD Vance is going to take the reins, and we're still going to have
Hmm.
Trumpism. Um,
Well,
that
is
being
JD
said,
Vance really a MAGA guy though?
he's a chameleon. He'll be if the people want him to be a MAGA guy, he'll be a MAGA
Oh,
guy. But I told you that was a two-tiered answer. So the senators, I don't think are doing everything. Not all of them. You got Lindsey Graham out there, trying, but a lot of senators just aren't getting that involved in the race because they don't like Trump. Now, remember how Trump did like basically a hostile takeover of the GOP? He had
yeah.
her name was Ronna McDaniel. What was her name? It's Mitt Romney's niece, Ronna McDaniel Romney, or whatever her name is.
Right.
Um, he had her kicked out. Who did he replace her with? Do you remember who's running the GOP?
Laura Loomer, right?
No, Laura Trump.
Laura Trump. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Eric's wife
Oh, Laura
is
Loomer is
running the
the
GOP.
other crazy girl that she
She's the crazy
disappeared.
girl in Florida. So yeah, after the whole where she showed up at the debate with him, he got so much shit from moderates, not from Democrats. Democrats were all about this. Like, yes,
Yeah.
let him keep talking to Laura. The moderates didn't like that. Um, but so what normally happens is the GOP is the umbrella of all, they're supposed to help out in all the races, the presidential race, the Senate, the local House races. Like they're supposed to divide up the money they raise and try to put money into all these different races. Since Trump took it over, they've made it very clear that the only thing they care about is getting Donald Trump elected. So he's
Yes.
basically screwed all of them fundraising wise. Like Ted Cruz has been on Fox News begging for people to donate to his
Yeah.
campaign. See, the thing is, he's not getting less donations this time than he normally does, but he normally gets his donations. But then also the GOP will send money down ballot to him to use. They do it in different ways. They do it through super PACs and whatnot. But they're just not doing that. So he is just not helping all the down ballot races, which, man, Republicans need to keep the House. They need to win the Senate. Like he's screwing them over. So I think it's kind of a deal where like, yeah, they're kind of not helping him as much, but also it's because he's screwing them over. Like
Yeah.
he's like the funding has stopped coming from the top of the ticket, and he's got his daughter-in-law running it, and basically you could say that he's running it, and she's the puppet that he's controlling to run it. But
Yeah.
he's using it. It's his own piggy bank right now, and the
Yeah.
RNC
Yeah.
is paying his legal bills. They're paying for his lawyers. Like that money is supposed to be going to down ballot races. So
So
I
then if
don't
Lord Trump's still in charge and Trump loses, like he's gonna figure out a way to like still get money from the GOP, I'm guessing.
unless there's some way they can get Laura Trump out of there, and I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And you
yeah.
brought up
And
JD
then,
Vance, which I have not seen him in a while.
I'm thinking about it. I haven't seen him in a couple days now that I think about it.
Since the debate, I really haven't seen him make too many appearances anywhere, which is
He's been
kind of
doing
weird.
he's been doing rallies, but he hasn't had any like major interviews or anything. So
Okay.
it's odd. I think that Republicans, they've been saying this for a while, but like the more of Trump America sees, the worse it is for him. So it's almost better if him and Vance fall off the radar a little bit and
Yeah.
let Mike Johnson go on the shows and tell you what Donald Trump's going to do. Because Mike Johnson's going to focus on the economy and immigration and all the things they want to focus on. Vance and Trump keep getting sidetracked by, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, whatever it might be. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, less Trump is better if you're a Republican and you want to win.
Let's see. Let's see if Trump, can you see what Trump's schedule's like?
You know, I think that
Because if
most
he's going to
candidates have a
Texas
schedule.
anytime, if he's going to Texas anytime soon, I'm just thinking about Rogan. I really want to see him on Rogan. Like, I haven't watched a Rogan episode in a long time, and I would definitely tune in for that one.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. So I watched him on the Flagrant podcast with Andy Schultz. I actually watched him with the ex Secret Service guy, Dan Bongino. And that was one of the ones where I could tell that Trump legit is exhausted because he just didn't really have any energy. And they wrapped it after like 20 minutes. And he was like, oh, my people are saying I have to go. And he just kind of
Oh yeah.
ended it there.
We
Um,
had that weird one where he like, did we talk about that? Singing and he was like dancing. He just played music for like, he took like two questions, played music, and then played more music.
he played 39 straight minutes of music and like danced a little bit like on stage. That was the weirdest thing ever. Yeah, I found his campaign special. He's going to be in North Carolina Monday. That's tomorrow, the
Yeah.
21st. He's see North Carolina, North Carolina, North Carolina. So
North
all day in North
Carolina,
Carolina tomorrow.
Georgia,
Georgia
Georgia,
Wednesday, Georgia.
Vegas, New York,
So the New
Arizona.
York one's interesting. He's doing Madison Square Garden, and I don't know if that's that one or if that's a later one, but he's doing Madison Square Garden, and everybody's giving him shit for
Oh,
that, saying that he has no chance of winning New York. But actually, that's a smart play by the GOP or by him or whoever. I don't think he's smart enough to make that move, but the GOP Republicans need to keep the House. Like that's one of the battles they're fighting, and they do like there's a lot of House Republicans from New York, even though it's a blue state. There are blue there are red areas of New York, and
right.
doing that rally there will give Republicans a real good chance to hold on to the House. So that's a smart thing. So every time I see somebody say, "Why is he wasting his time in New York?" No, that's he should be doing that. He should be helping down ballot races. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's it. That's basically he's only got what's this week, and there's nothing after this week.
So he
Um,
goes from Georgia to Las Vegas. He could have a stop over in Austin pretty easily on that trip.
Well, he's in Georgia at 7 p.m. So evening in Georgia, and then the next day 7 p.m. in Vegas. So yeah,
He's
he could technically.
been doing two a day. I don't know. I don't know. He's got a private jet too, so he could fly into Austin pretty easily. And yeah.
Their whole thing about not wanting him to be, like the less Trump the better. Like if I was running Trump's campaign, I don't know that I'd let him go on Rogan. Like is because Rogan's gonna let him talk. Rogan's not gonna try to steer him back onto the right path. He's just gonna
I
let
hope
him
not.
talk.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And if you let him talk, he's gonna go into voting, Dominion, flipping votes. 2020 was rigged. The Haitians are eating the dogs and cats. He's gonna, yeah, I
I
don't
would
think
like to
that's,
see Rogan. I would like to see Rogan do some pushback on both of them. Like actually make
yeah,
it a decent interview, like a decent like
whenever he does, I want it to be fair between the two of them, and that's where
yeah.
I think he is going to do it fair, but I'm a little worried that he would not. So
Yeah.
that's just where I'm at. We'll see. I kind of would like to see both of them on Rogan before this is over. If he agrees to do it and her team says no, I think that's a mistake. I think they
Oh
should
yeah.
do it.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd also like to see Mark Cuban go on Rogan though, because I think Mark Cuban
Oh
is a
yeah.
way better messenger
Oh
than
yeah.
Kamala. Yeah,
For
that's
sure.
who I want to see.
Cuban on
So
Rogan would be great.
yeah. Um, let's see. The only thing I didn't get to real quick, how is it not concerning? And I feel like this has been asked in 16 and 20 and now, but like the amount of Nazi flags I'm seeing at Trump rallies recently is like skyrocketed. And
What?
they did a boat parade the other day. I'm guessing it was in Florida, but I'm not really sure. But Laura Trump, head of the GOP, was on one of the boats,
Oh
and the
God.
boat directly behind her had Trump flags and not two Nazi flags, two Trump flags directly
What?
behind her, and she's just waving. And I'm like, just from a strict optics point of view, wouldn't somebody there organizing that go get them and say, "Hey, take the Nazi flags down"? Like, wouldn't you
Yeah,
think?
absolutely. You can't
And
bring a
I've
Nazi
seen,
flag into the rally? Like, yeah,
dude,
seems
and
that's
there's
crazy.
Republicans there's Republicans online saying that, oh, those are Antifa or liberals that are dressing up as Trump supporters
Yeah,
and
of course
bringing
it is.
Nazi flags to make them look bad. Do you remember the whole thing I said about if you're at a party or a rally and someone's got a Nazi flag and you don't say anything about it, like, or you don't leave, hey, you're at a Nazi rally. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, yeah.
So even if they're like, oh, that's probably a Democrat that brought it, no, like everybody there should go over and say, hey, take your flag down or get the fuck out of here, one or the
Yeah.
other. But you can't have a Nazi flag.
Yeah,
Maybe
who's flying Nazi flags these days? That's freaking crazy.
maybe we have a higher standard. I don't know, but like that would be if I showed up anywhere and there were flags being flown and one of them was a Nazi flag,
Yeah,
I need to investigate real quick and I'm probably leaving. I'm almost
yeah,
definitely leaving. Yeah,
yeah. Pretty much leaving. Yeah. I'm either gonna tear
yeah,
it
not
down or
down
I'm
with
gonna
this.
leave, or both, probably
Yep.
both.
So
Yeah. I mean, it's like the
that's
Confederate flag too these days.
so I agree with your line of thought on this, but I can tell you from talking to numerous people, people look at the Confederate flag as a sign, it's about Southern heritage and this and that. And you and me would both say, yeah, but it's about slavery. But
Very much about slavery.
I
Yeah.
think that there are people that genuinely have a shirt or a hat or whatever that has a Confederate flag, and they don't, in their minds, they're like, no, I'm not racist. I just love the South. And
Yeah.
misguided as it may be, I think that's the case. I think there are people that truly aren't bad people that probably have a Confederate flag hat, and they're like, "Oh no, I don't have any
They're
problem."
just stupid people. I
They're
mean, the
not.
Confederate flag was created for the Confederacy for states' rights so that the southern states could have the right to have slaves. Like
Yeah,
that's all it is, right? And people will say it's states' rights or it's southern this, but it was basically pro-slavery. It's a flag that represents pro-slavery in its fullest.
here's the thing. I don't disagree with you, but I don't. I wouldn't want to say like, "Oh, it's people that are stupid." Like it's people that are uneducated on that subject. Um,
Uneducated, which is what?
you know, you know what I'm
What's the
going to
term
compare
for
it to?
uneducated?
On ignorant. They're ignorant
Okay, yeah.
about that subject.
Okay, ignorant.
Here, I'm going to try to thread a needle here and talk about something that
I know you are.
I might cut this from the podcast.
No,
Um,
don't.
so I have I'll just say close friends. extended family that are homosexual and married and a happy gay couple, okay? And I was talking to him one time and I was saying, I was like, being 100% honest with him, I was like, it's real hard for me to not say the word gay. Like if me and you are playing ball and you have a terrible throw, I'd want to call you, like, my natural instinct would be to call you gay.
Yeah.
I've been working for the last like 5 years on eliminating that word from my vocabulary. Like, I don't want to be hateful to people. Like I really, I don't want to use that word. And I have a daughter that's going to hear me say that. So like more than anything, I want to stop saying the word gay. It's been the hardest thing I've ever tried to quit in my life. And it's just
It's
at
not
weird
gay though,
moments.
right? It's you're saying the F word.
No, gay. I really don't say
Oh,
the F word at all. Yeah, no, I've
okay.
never really said
I mean,
that.
you can
But
say
just
gay, you just can't say it in a derogatory term. It's
I'm
all
not.
about
I'm trying
intent.
to. Okay, so hear me now. Um, I tried to explain this to my friends that are homosexual, and I said, "Yeah," I said, "I'm really trying to stop saying it." And I said, "Yeah, but when I say it, I'm not calling a gay person gay. Like I'm just making fun of one of my buddies for whatever." And they had to break it down to me. They were like, "Well, when you're making fun of your buddies, like, what did your buddy do that makes you want to call him gay?" And I go, "Well, like if he does something wimpy, then it would be natural for me to call him gay." And they go, "Oh." So if a man is weak or wimpy, then they're gay. And I had to stop and think about it. And I was like, I totally understand what you're saying, but it's not what I mean in my heart. But
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I tell you all that to tell you I think that's what's going on with the Confederate flag people is like in their heart. I think there are people that in their heart don't mean anything negative by it. But if you
Yeah.
could sit them down and explain that that's a symbol of the right to keep slaves, they'd go, oh, but they truly don't mean it from a place of hate or a place of hating other people. Now there are Confederate flag people that wish the Klan was still riding. 100%. There are people like that out there. I'm just saying, not all of them are like that. There are
Well, there are
Confederate flag
certain
people.
terms in the English language that have two meanings, right? Certain words
Yes,
that have two meanings, like fuck.
gay means happy.
Gay means happy. It
Yeah.
also could mean it could be a derogatory term towards your friend who's being a wimp, and it also could mean
Yeah.
two men who love each other.
Yes.
So you could give it like multiple meanings, but
Yes.
the gay community wants to keep it to one term, one meaning,
Well,
or
that's
two.
the thing though, is if me and you went and did something, if we were doing something and you accidentally touched my butt or something, and I was like, "What are you, gay?" That's one word because I'm like, "Oh, are you into men?"
Oh
But
yeah.
if you tried to toss me something and you didn't get it halfway to me, and I said, "Yeah, you throw like a gay," that's hateful. Like that's saying that you're
Okay.
throwing
Yeah,
like
yeah.
someone who's weak. Um,
Yeah, you
and
should just cut
and
this out of your whole. I don't really say it that way,
yeah,
but
so
yeah,
just
you
cut
should
this whole
just cut
part.
it out of your yeah, out of your
Yeah,
lexicon, man. Get rid of it.
yeah. No, and like I said, I've been trying to quit that word for like 5 years, and I truly like I know a lot of gay people, and I have no issue with them at all. They're some of the nicest people I know. I don't want to like I you know how I use the word gay the most? I call my dog gay all the time. I can't
My dog
help
is
it.
gay, so it's fine.
Dude, my dog will come up and start sniffing my butt or my crotch, and I'm like, "Oh, you're gay." And even then, I'm like, "Okay, stop saying the gay word." I'm probably gonna cut most of this out of before I post this.
Fine. It's good for the
Yeah.
shorts.
But I told you the whole gay thing to tell you though, like I think it's a matter of ignorance, and I was ignorant about using the word gay. Like I thought, oh, I can use it because I'm not saying it about a gay person. I'm saying it about my straight buddy who's kind of weak or who did something wimpy. And after I was educated on the subject, I then realized, oh, even though my intent wasn't bad, I still shouldn't do this. I think that we need to find certain people that still rock the Confederate flag and have a approach it from a place of kindness and just say,
Yeah.
hey, what's up with that flag? And oh, well, I like Southern heritage. Well, and then you can go into a long discussion and say, well, are you aware that that image is hurtful to people, or are you aware that that symbol stands for the right to oppress another community? Whatever, however you
Yeah.
can word it, and maybe you'll break through. But I'm just saying all that to say, just because you see a Confederate flag on somebody doesn't mean they're a bad person.
Okay.
Does that make
Okay.
sense? Did I thread that needle?
They're either a bad person or they're ignorant.
But me and you were both ignorant about certain things.
Sure, sure. I'm
Yeah.
ignorant.
Can you explain how to replace an ACL in a knee?
Probably.
No, you're ignorant on that subject, sir. You're ignorant.
First, you get the
Yeah,
cadaver.
everybody, dude, everybody's ignorant about stuff, about certain stuff that we've never taken the time to look into.
30 seconds.
We really went this long already.
Yeah.
All right, I say we wrap it here.
All right, brother.
Good night to you. We'll meet up
Good
later this
night.
week, but talk to you later, buddy. Bye.
All right, later.